Listening is an act of love. Thank you. You can help lift up the voices, stories, and challenges we share by making a contribution at thiswayout.org.
A sincere thank you to all of you who already support This Way Out. Your support matters.
I'm MR Raquel.
And I'm Michael Taylor Gray.
With NewsWrap, a summary of some of the news in or affecting LGBTQ communities around the world for the week ending December 18th, 2021. French lawmakers have enacted one of the world's strongest bans on conversion therapy. The bill outlaws practices, behaviors, and repeated statements with the intent of modifying or repressing a person's real or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity and having the effect of a material alteration to their mental or physical health. Claims that queer people can be guided onto the straight and narrow through counseling and/or prayer have been definitively debunked. Convicted practitioners will face up to 2 years in prison and a fine equivalent to almost $35,000 US. If a minor or vulnerable adult is victimized, the penalties increase to 3 years in prison and an almost $40,000 fine. Healthcare professionals who practice conversion therapy could also lose their medical licenses for 10 years. There are no religious exemptions. Senators in the Parliament's upper house voted 305 to 28 to approve the measure on December 14th. It passed unanimously in the National Assembly in October. President Emmanuel Macron is expected to sign it into law. That will add France to the slowly growing list of countries with national bans on conversion therapy. Malta was the first. Canadian lawmakers banned the practice last week with legislation to take effect in January. It's also illegal in Albania, Brazil, Ecuador, Germany, and Taiwan. Similar bills are being considered in a few other countries.
The Court of Justice of the European Union has ordered all member states to legally recognize the children of same-gender couples. The December 14th ruling came in the case of a baby girl who was born in Spain to a Bulgarian-born woman and her Gibraltar-born wife. Bulgarian authorities refused to recognize the baby's citizenship because the Eastern European country does not allow lesbian and gay couples to legally wed, and does not acknowledge the legal marriages of same-gender couples performed elsewhere. The decision says that Bulgaria must recognize the baby's Spanish birth certificate, which lists both mothers as her parents. A foundational EU law requires all member states to allow citizens the freedom to travel within the Union to any other member state. The judges ruled that Bulgaria's failure to issue the baby a government ID card or passport would impede the child's exercise of the right of free movement and thus full enjoyment of her rights as a Union citizen. Speaking through the queer advocacy group ILGA Europe, the couple said, "This is a long-awaited step ahead for us, but also a huge step for all LGBT families in Bulgaria and Europe." European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen insists that if you are a parent in one country, you are a parent in every country.
Lawmakers in the Mexican state of Zacatecas approved a marriage equality bill this week by a vote of 18 to 10 with one abstention. The measure had failed to advance in several previous legislative sessions. Members of so-called pro-life groups tried to block lawmakers from entering the Zacatecas Legislative Palace to prevent the final reading of the bill, according to local reports. Pro-equality counter-demonstrators were on hand to celebrate its final passage. Mexico's Supreme Court ruled in 2015 that state bans on civil marriage for same-gender couples were unconstitutional. However, each individual state was left to determine how to open the civil institution to gay and lesbian couples. In 2018, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights ordered all member states, including Mexico, to let lesbian and gay couples legally wed. The ruling had no enforcement provisions. By most accounts, queer couples will now be able to legally marry in 25 of Mexico's 31 states. The Federal District of Mexico City led the way in 2007.
Just how many queers are there, you ask? It's been a hard question to answer, since closeted people who don't want to be counted are difficult to track. But a report released in the US this week suggests that those closet doors are flying open in record numbers. The Human Rights Campaign is the largest queer equality group in the country. Their analysis of the US Census Bureau's Household Pulse survey finds at least 20 million adults living in the United States identify as LGBTQ, close to 8% of the population. That's twice the most recent estimate of 4.4% reported by the Public Religious Research Institute's American Values Atlas in 2018. The percentage would no doubt be higher still if there were just some way to count the closets. The Bs were the majority among the LGBTQs, with 4% identifying as bisexual. Even though there are no questions about sexual orientation or gender identity in its major studies, Human Rights Campaign interim president Joni Madison still praised the effort. She said, "I commend the Biden administration and the US Census Bureau for finally allowing researchers to count us, and we look forward to seeing the LGBTQ+ community counted in further studies." Data from the Census Bureau is used to help determine how billions of dollars of federal money are spent.
A small group of lawmakers in Senegal announced this week that they're drafting legislation to essentially make being an LGBTQ person a crime. The proposed legislation would add up to 5 years to what is already a potentially 5-year prison term for acts against nature with a person of the same gender. Convictions for attempted acts against nature would draw the same penalties. It would also jail for up to 5 years anyone who finances and/or advocates for queer equality. The proposed legislation defines acts against nature as lesbianism, homosexuality, bisexuality, transsexuality, intersexuality, bestiality, necrophilia, and other related practices. Its supporters' erroneous description of intersexuality is almost laughable. They call it being adept at all imaginable sexual orgies. Lawmaker Alioune Souaré is part of a 4-person group of National Assembly deputies who call themselves the Say No to Homosexuality Alliance. He told reporters that their draft would soon be submitted, but it's not clear how much support the proposal has in Parliament. Homosexuality is a taboo subject in a number of African nations, and mostly Muslim Senegal is one of them. Discrimination and harassment are routine, as is anti-queer violence against anyone even perceived to be LGBTQ. However, the Freedom Collective of Senegal responded to the announced proposal with a statement asserting, "Homosexuality has always existed in Senegal, as it has everywhere else, and LGBTI people are a full-fledged component of Senegalese society that has the right to respect, just like everyone else." Senegal's proposed bill mirrors similar draconian legislation being considered by the parliament in the neighboring, mostly Christian West African nation of Ghana.
Finally, Barbados is now the planet's newest republic. The Caribbean island nation gained its independence from Britain in 1966, but has continued as a constitutional monarchy. British ties were formally broken on November 30th in a ceremony headed by newly elected President Sandra Mason. Barbados has criminalized homosexual acts since colonial rule. LGBTQ rights supporters have lobbied for the removal of those anti-queer sex laws during the transition from constitutional monarchy to full independence. Prior to the official independence ceremony, Prime Minister Mia Mottley introduced a new charter of Barbados in Parliament that appears to do even more. Article 1 reads, "All Barbadians are born free and are equal in human dignity and rights regardless of age, race, ethnicity, faith, class, cultural and educational background, ability, sex, gender, or sexual orientation." The charter is not a binding legal document, but activists think such language will help advance LGBTQ equality in the newly minted nation. Co-founder of Barbados Gays and Lesbians and All Sexuals Against Discrimination, Donia Pigot, told The Independent, "Becoming a republic is a great opportunity for Barbados to wipe the slate and determine who we are."
That's NewsWrap, global queer news with attitude, for the week ending December 18th, 2021. Follow the news in your area and around the world. An informed community is a strong community.
NewsWrap is written by Greg Gordon, edited by Lucia Chappelle, produced by Brian DeShazer, and brought to you by you.
Help keep us in ears around the world at thiswayout.org, where you can also read the text of this newscast and much more.
And you can read the transcript and listen to NewsWrap each week by subscribing to our This Way Out radio channel on YouTube. For This Way Out, I'm Michael Taylor Gray. Stay healthy.
And I'm Emma Raquel. Stay safe.
This Way Out delivers LGBTQ news and culture to more than 150 local communities on radio stations around the world. And we are also a free online news service.
You can choose your favorite way to listen, online or on the air, at thiswayout.org.
Please sign up for our free e-newsletter, Inside This Way Out.
We'll respect your trust in us and make sure your personal information is never shared with others.
Just send us an email at info@thiswayout.org to receive the informative and unique addition to the show.
You'll be invited to join us for a more in-depth look into our stories and be encouraged to learn more about This Way Out's 3 decades of broadcast activism.
We hope you choose to join us in celebration of LGBTQ history and culture.
Email us at info@thiswayout.org to join the movement.
We'll make sure you always know what's going on inside This Way Out.